What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC 291. We got Dustin Poirier going against Justin Gaethje.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another betting breakdown video. This week we are breaking down an absolute stacked 12-fight card in UFC 291, a card that I'm really looking forward to, not only from a betting perspective, but from a fan perspective as well. I think we're going to have a very good night of fights. And yeah, a lot of sticking out on this card. This is actually going to be the most action I've ever had on a card since I've started tracking back in 2018, 2019. So we'll see if it works out coming off of the second best night of the year in UFC London. Had a monster night last week, looking to carry that into this week, and hopefully it's another big night. Going to try to end this 5-card July out with a bang, finishing up July here with 291. So before we get started, a couple things. If you guys could please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. That is always much appreciated. This is a big card, so I'm bringing back the prop contest. To enter said contest, first, leave a like on the video. Second, subscribe to the channel if you don't already. And then third, comment down your biggest plus money prop, a prop that you think is going to hit. Be sure to comment the prop and also comment the odds. You got to comment the odds if you want to be eligible to win. $25 to first, and then on top of that, you hit your prop. So going to be bringing back the contest. We'll see who can hit the craziest prop this week. I have a lot of crazy props. I'm sprinkling a lot of props, and we'll see who can get it done. Other than that, going live Saturday for some best bet. We got Blood Money, Johnny K picks coming on, and then I'll also might be going live like 1 hour prior to the prelims as well, just for like a last second Q&A. So yeah, looking forward to this card. Like I said, the most action I've had on a card ever. And one thing I want to emphasize before we get into the picks and the bets is the fact that, and it's a big talking point because it has to be, we are in Utah, we are in Salt Lake, which is very high elevation, and I don't know if Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby just sat there when they were doing the matchmaking. They were like, who can we find that is going to completely gas out after 5 minutes? Because I feel like there's a ton of fighters on that card where I already questioned the cardio, and there's fighters coming in on short notice, fighters that I feel like will not perform well here at elevation. And there's a ton of them. So for me, I'm attacking these fighters that I think are going to slow down, very quickly. And I have a lot of late round props because I think a lot of late round props are going to be live against these, these fighters with already bad cardio, these short notice fighters. And we'll talk about all of that. But I say we get into it. We're going to start with the first fight of the card. We have Miranda Maverick going against Priscilla Cachoeira. I have two bets here. The first bet I made, one of the very first bets I made of the week, it was the under 2.5 rounds in this fight. I got it at minus 125 for 1.25 units. And then I also played Miranda Maverick wins inside the distance, half a unit, plus 140. And yeah, I mean, you can get the under 2.5 at like minus 110 on some books. I saw it as low as like minus 105. And I mean, I like violence here. We have a striker versus grappler matchup where on the feet, Priscilla Cachoeira is going to have the opportunity to knock out Miranda Maverick. We have Maverick who's just going to have a significant advantage on the mat. I think if this fight hits the mat, which it will, Priscilla Cachoeira has no takedown defense. Miranda Maverick is going to just have a plethora of opportunities to finish this fight. Miranda Maverick only 2 finishes in the UFC, but look who she's fighting. I mean, she's fighting, Macy Barber. She's fighting Erin Blanchfield. Very, very solid fighters with very good ground games. And Priscilla Cachoeira is just not that. I'm a big fan of Priscilla Cachoeira, but, she has huge holes in her game. One being the striking defense, but that's not going to come into play here. And then two, just being the terrible ground game. So yes, Priscilla Cachoeira on the feet is going to have opportunities. But once this fight hits the mat, I think it could be over shortly after. So I like Maverick here. I like Maverick to take down Priscilla Cachoeira and submit her. I'll tell you guys right now, don't parlay up Miranda Maverick at minus 255. I can't tell you how many people messaged me last week or commented last week, oh, Molly McCann ruined my part. Why would you parlay Molly McCann? Why would you parlay Molly McCann? Don't parlay Miranda Maverick, but she should win this fight. But as we know, things don't always play out how we expect. If she does stand with Priscilla Cachoeira, she's getting knocked out. I like the under, and I like Maverick inside the distance. Don't parlay Miranda Maverick, please. Moving on, we got Matthew Semmelsberger going against Uros Medic. So I was able to get ahead on this card. I did beat a couple line moves significantly, and this is one of them. I have 1.5 units on Matthew Semmelsberger at minus 148. At this point, minus 220, minus 225, I wouldn't touch that. Instead, I would look at Matthew Semelsberger inside the distance at even money. So that's kind of how I would attack it now. On top of that, I also beat some line movement on the fight doesn't go the distance. 2.5 units minus 160. So at this point on BetRivers Sportsbook, they have the fight to end by knockout at minus 150. I think that's a pretty atrocious line there. You have Semelsberger, who has 9 knockdowns in the UFC, and Medic, who's a knockout artist in his own right. So if you have BetRivers, the fight to end by knockout is what I would currently look at. I think the under 2.5 is a great spot. Fight doesn't go decision is a great spot. Fight won't start round 3 is a great spot, just due to the fact that Uros Medic is coming in here on short notice. He's coming back up to 170. Matthew Semelsberger hits like an absolute truck. I think we see Matthew Semelsberger knock out Uros Medic in this second round. I expect Medic to maybe have success early, but as this fight goes on, I think Semelsberger just has much more ways to win. So if you got it on Semelsberger early, you did your job. A lot of people did. At this point, there's just no point in laying, minus 220 on Semelsberger. Just go with the inside the distance, because Medic has never even seen a third round. But yeah, I'm on the Semelsberger money line, and the fight doesn't go pretty big here. A lot of my night is invested into this second fight of the card. Moving on, we got CJ Vergara going against Vinicius Salvador, and I have a couple bets here. So this is a post weigh-in read, and at the same time, not really, because I was already on the edge of am I going to bet CJ Vergara this week, or am I just going to pass? And after the weigh-ins, I had to pull the trigger. Salvador, he came in here, he looked terrible on the scale, he missed weight, and like I said, I was already on the CJ Vergara side. I already liked him to win, and the fact that he did miss weight just allowed me to go out there and pull the trigger with confidence. CJ Vergara, this guy has toughness, and he has cardio, he has grit, and I think those things are going to carry him a long way in this fight. We talk about the elevation. Salvador is a guy that has not been the scorecards too many times. This is a guy in Salvador who has 19 fights. He's been the distance only 17 times. I see Salvador maybe having some success early, but as this fight goes on, I expect CJ Vergara to take over. If CJ Vergara can mix in takedowns as well, I think he can have a lot of success. He actually has 0 takedowns thus far, but I would like to see him mix them in here. I think he would have a lot of success doing so, and I think he could finish that fight in the second or third round. I just don't think Salvador is that great. I think we really overrated him, with that performance against Shannon Ross on the Contender Series, where he looked career best, phenomenal. But we know what Shannon Ross at this point, he's getting knocked out by Jesus Aguilar. He showed up Salvador against Victor Altamirano and just looked terrible. He was messing around in there. He was clearly losing the fight, celebrating after losing a round. He was showboating after just clearly losing. It was a horrible performance for Salvador. Now he's showing up here in elevation, missing weight, looking terrible. I think there's a lot of reasons to like Vergara. If you like Salvador, you probably play him round 1, because I think he has about a round of gas to get Vergara out of there. If not, I think Vergara breaks this guy. So I have 1.5 units on CJ Vergara, minus 150. And like I said earlier, I'm sprinkling a lot of late round props against guys I think are going to slow down and break. Salvador being one of them. Give me CJ Vergara round 2, quarter unit, plus 800. And then CJ Vergara round 3, quarter unit, plus 1,200. Moving on, we got Jake Matthews going against Darius Flowers. This is a spot where, I taped this fight and I had under 2.5 rounds just circled. Probably one of my favorite spots of the week. I missed the line. It opened like minus 150. I missed it. It went to minus 170. I went to play it, and the line moved shortly after. And then they set it at 1.5. And I'm like, okay, I don't love the 1.5, but these violence lines have just got hammered. I thought this would be kind of like a sneaky spot of the week, as Jake Matthews, he does tend to go to decision more often than not. But I think people are kind of seeing what I'm seeing, where we talk about short notice, Darius Flowers. We talk about the elevation. We talk about, Darius Flowers being a guy who gasses out, not under them circumstances. So him coming in here on short notice in elevation, I hate that even more for him. With that said, though, Darius Flowers, this guy hits like a truck. He's very, very, very dangerous in that first round. I think he's super live to knock out Jake Matthews in the first round. Very live to do so, but I think he only has 3 or 4 minutes to do it, which could be enough. This guy hits very hard, and we've seen Matthews get hurt plenty of times. So this is how I'm playing this fight. I think the fight doesn't go to decision is a good parlay piece. I did parlay that up. My only parlay of the week involves the fight doesn't go the distance, but what I also did was I put a half a unit shot on Flowers, first round finish, plus 750. I didn't mess around with like the knockout or anything, just because, there wasn't much of a difference in price. So, just in case it is a sub, because Matthews has been sub 3 times, but I fully expect it to be a knockout if it comes from Flowers there. So I put a half a unit, Flowers round 1 plus 750. And then what I think if this fight he reaches the second round, Flowers is screwed, and Matthews is going to have so many opportunities to finish this fight. So what I also did was I put a half unit on Matthews to win in round 2 plus 550, and then a half a unit on Matthews to win in round 3 plus 1200, which was kind of shocked it was plus 1200 because I think that round 3 is going to be very, very live if it even gets there. So a half unit on that, and then I also have a 0.15 unit sprinkle on Matthews sub round 2 plus 950, and then a 0.10 unit sprinkle on Matthews sub 3 plus 2,000. I think it's Flowers early. I think it's Matthews late. And more specifically, Matthews sub is going to be very much on the table. Matthews has multiple submissions in the UFC. I think he has 3 or 4. And then on top of that, Flowers has been submitted like 4 times, finishing all of his losses as well. Short notice, elevation, love violence in this spot. I think it's probably Matthews weathering that early storm and getting the finish second round, third round, but Flowers is going to have a lot of opportunities here. Moving on, we got Roman Copylob going against Claudio Ribeiro. I do have a couple bets here. So I have the fight ends by knockout, minus 200 for 2 units. That line is still there. The reason being is these guys have 21 combined wins, 20 of which come by knockout. The other win comes by decision, so 0 subs on these guys' records. You can see it right there. Big finish rates, 100% finish rate for Ribeiro, all by knockout. 90% finish rate for Copylob. 9 of his 10 wins come by knockout. So instead of laying the minus 275 or whatever for the fight doesn't go, I think just playing the fight to end by knockout's a good way to get that juice down because I think somebody is getting served here. I do expect Ribeiro to have opportunities early. This guy hits very, very hard. But Copylob's a guy that really likes to break you down. You look through Copylob's record, he has a ton of finishes, late second round, third round. This is not a guy in Copylob who's going out there and sparking people early. He invests to the body. He invests to the head. I mean, this guy really puts it on you, and he kind of gets attritional damage. It adds up, and then he finishes you late, and I think that's very much on the table here against Claudio Ribeiro. So this is kind of a weird because I don't like either guy's cardio. I think both these guys could actually gas out here, but I do trust Copylob the more this fight goes. I think Copylob is going to be the fresher fighter. And again, we talk about these late round props. I think the Copylob late round props are very live here. And I did sprinkle those as well. I have Copylob round 2, quarter unit plus 575. And then Copylob round 3, quarter unit plus 1,000. I think this fight gets extended. Copylob is going to break this guy down and finish him late. But Claudio Ribeiro is super dangerous, especially early on. I think this fight finishes, though. Give me the fight to end by knockout as well. Moving on, we got Marcos Vergar de Lima going against Derek Lewis. So I have a couple bets here. So the first bet I made was on the under 1.5 rounds, 1.5 units minus 150. And that line has obviously moved to minus 200, which I still think, is solid. I think the fight won't start round 2 is solid as well. But this is kind of another post weigh-in read I had. And it's the fact that, everybody's going crazy about it. I mean, I've seen like a million people talk about it already. Derek Lewis is in phenomenal shape. Derek Lewis is in the best shape of his life. He said at media day that he's going to show up with abs, and thought he was joking, but no, he's not joking. He did show up with abs. So Derek Lewis, 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He has taken this fight very seriously, apparently. So I like the under 1.5 first and foremost. I like violence first and foremost. I'm on the under 1.5. But if this fight reaches the second round, I have serious concerns about Marcos Vergar de Lima. Serious concerns about this guy. This is a guy in de Lima where the majority of his wins come in the first round, and there's been like multiple times where he doesn't get that finish and he just falls off a cliff. The most notable one is that Stefan Struve fight. Dominated Struve, 10-8 round. Comes out in the second, loses, gets finished by Stefan Struve, right? If de Lima cannot finish Derek Lewis in the first round, if de Lima takes him down and doesn't get the sub, or if de Lima's not able to get Lewis out of there, Lewis is going to be very, very, very live in the second and third round, especially considering he looks in great shape. I think Lewis, if this fight hits the second round, is going to be in the better shape. With that said, I think de Lima probably does starch him early, but if Lewis is able to stick in there for that second round, I think these Lewis second round knockout props and third round knockout props are going to be very live, and I couldn't believe these numbers for a guy in Lewis who has multiple second and third round knockouts. So after the weigh-ins, I had to sprinkle these Lewis late props. I have Derek Lewis KO2, a quarter unit plus 1,200, and then Derek Lewis KO3, a quarter unit plus 3,300. If this fight gets to the second round, Lewis is going to be very, very live in my opinion, especially with the elevation. I think it probably affects both guys, but more so to Lima, who I think has work. I know Derek Lewis has bad cardio, but he's a guy that fights through it, and he can still land a big shot late. He has multiple late round finishes where De Lima has like no late round finishes ever. If De Lima's getting a finish, it's in first round. If he does not get a finish, the fight either goes to decision or he gets finished late. So I think the Lewis second, third round props make a lot of sense. I'll tell you right now, don't lay minus 230 on Marcos Rogério de Lima. This is a guy that should he win? Yeah, probably. Does he have advantages everywhere? Yeah, he does. But it's just hard to count on a guy like Derek Lewis. I'd be very careful doing that this week. Under 1.5, Lewis 2-3. We'll see if we can hit some of those. Moving on, we got Gabriel Bonfim going against Trevin Giles. So I had 3 spots on this card where I'm like, these are smash spots. I have a max bet on this card. I was going to have another very big bet, which was going to be the Matthews under 2.5. I missed the boat on that. And then my other big bet was going to be Gabriel Bonfim inside the distance. Was hoping for minus 150. Worst price, minus 165. And the props came out, and I'm getting nowhere near that. So, yeah, Bonfim inside the distance, anywhere from minus 200 to minus 220. And I don't really want to lay that much chalk on an inside the distance prop, which maybe there's some value. Maybe you're getting the price tag down a little bit, but that is a very, very chalky inside the distance prop. But yeah, I think it hits. I mean, I think Bonfim finishes Giles. Bonfim, a 100% finish rate. 11 by sub, 3 by knockout, 14 total. We see Giles has been finished in all 4 of his losses, 2 by sub, 2 by knockout. Bonfim's going to be dangerous wherever the fight goes. So, yeah, I think Bonfim finishes this fight, but I ended up laying off that inside the distance. The only thing I really have here is that this does close out my only parlay of the week. It's a violence parlay. I have the Flowers-Matthews fight doesn't go, parlayed with the Giles-Bonfim fight doesn't go. Came out to minus 150 for 1.5 units. I think both of these fights finish at a very high likelihood, and if either fight did go the distance, I'd be very surprised. So that's my only parlay of the week, just the violence bet in this fight. I think Bonfim finishes Giles, but there's not much really sticking out other than that. I think the under 1.5 was plus money for a split sec. Maybe considered it there, but the under 1.5 is getting pounded as we speak. So not much else sticking out, but I think Bonfim does get it done. Moving on, we get to Kevin Holland going against Michael Chiesa. We're going to kick off the main card here, and I have a couple bets here. So this is probably like the most line movement I've ever beat ever. Shout out to the Propaholic for shouting this one out. It was the Kevin Holland, Michael Chiesa under 2.5 at plus money, believe it or not. It is now like minus 200 and something. But at this point, I think a very sneaky prop is the fight ends by submission. So I'm on the under 4 unit in this fight, but the fight ends by submission is very intriguing here, and here's why. The fight doesn't go to decision is anywhere from minus 210 to minus 250. And you take a look at these guys and their losses. These guys have 9 losses coming inside the distance, and 7 of those 9 have finished by submission. Holland's been subbed 3 times, twice in the UFC, once by Brendan Allen and once by Khamzat Chimaev. Michael Chiesa has been submitted 4 times, and I believe all 4 of those were in the UFC, at least 3 that I can remember off the top of my head. So 7 submission losses total, right? And then you look at their knockout losses, 1 each, right? But Kevin Holland, it was a corner stoppage. He broke his hand against Thompson. Michael Chiesa, it was a doctor stoppage, a cut stoppage against Joe Lozon. So neither of these guys have actually ever been knocked out. Obviously, could Kevin Holland knock out Chiesa? Yeah, but I think this fight is primarily going to play out on the mat. I think if Holland is able to hurt Chiesa might shoot in and get his neck snatched up as well. I think a club and sub is very live. I think either guy's very live once this fight hits the mat. So instead of laying these chalky violence props, which have got just smashed, obliterated throughout the week, I think the fight ends by sub is a very good look, and my goodness, it's plus 210 right now on BetRivers Sportsbook last I saw. I got it at plus 205. I have a half unit on it. I think somebody's getting subbed here one way or another. I like that. I'm on the under for a unit. And then I'm also on Kevin Holland inside the distance, half a unit plus 120. I think if Holland wins this fight, it's inside the distance, whether it be knockout, whether it be sub. I think Holland is the side here, and I think he probably gets a club and sub victory this week. So give me lots of spots here. Holland inside the distance, the under 2.5, and the fight ends by sub. My favorite spot being that fight ends by sub. Just a line that I had circled all week, in a line that, quite frankly, it surprises me with all things considered. Moving on, we got Bobby Green going against Tony Ferguson. We have Bobby Green, massive favorite, Ferguson, massive dog. And yeah, at first I saw the Ferguson dog price, and I'm like, okay, I might be interested, because Bobby Green should not be minus 400 against anybody. And then I watched Ferguson's last fight, and I'm like, absolutely not. I mean, I think Ferguson's done. I know he came out saying he has 5 fights left, and then he's going to fight for a title, which makes me think, Bobby Green's going to probably knock this guy out even more than I already did. I'm not a big fan of Bobby Green. He's a guy that goes in there, he messes around. He's a guy that I typically don't like betting, typically don't like laying juice on, but I just think Tony Ferguson is so far done that Bobby Green does go out here and probably pays off that price tag, to be honest, as crazy as that sounds. So what I did here, though, and there's a couple spots that stick out on this one. Bobby Green to win in the third round or by decision. They do the double chance, right? The third round decision prop on DraftKings, FanDuel, and BetRivers, Unibet. It's plus money on BetRivers. Last I saw it at plus 105. I was able to hop on at plus 100. It's a better price now for one unit. I think that's a great way to get this minus 400 price tag down on Bobby Green. And then I also, these are like just in case bets, but I think they're very live. Bobby Green, second round knockout, quarter unit plus 800. Bobby Green, third round knockout, quarter unit plus 1200. I could see like a mercy stoppage where, Bobby Green's hitting Ferguson in the face so many times and Ferguson isn't reacting well. It gets late into the fight and the ref's just like, no more. We're calling it. You're done. You got to retire, Tony. I could see like a mercy type stoppage like we saw in the Gaethje fight. So, I think Bobby Green late round props could be very live. I think decision's most likely, and that's why I like that third round decision. Don't lay minus 400 on Bobby Green. Don't parlay him even. I mean, I think he wins more often than not, but just the thought of like laying this price tag on him is kind of icky. But yeah, give me Bobby Green third round decision plus money plus 100, then also sprinkle the second round and third round props. I think Ferguson is more than on his way out. And if you're on the Ferguson side, I'll tell you that nothing's wrong with passing. I would not bet on this guy at this point. So moving on, I talked about a lot of action thus far. I have a lot of action on this card. It's a long video. I don't have any action here. Michel Pereira misses weight. I actually think that probably helps him. But I missed the line. I mean, Pereira was like plus 180 at one point. It's plus 135. I'm fine with passing. No props really sticking out. I can't bet on Pereira. I retired from betting on him a long time ago. There was that Tristan Connolly fiasco where the dance routine, he gassed out mid-fight, and then there was also the Diego Sanchez DQ. I mean, I just can't trust this guy. And like I said, I already missed the line, so I'm content with passing. I'm going to pick Pereira with little to no confidence. But the weight miss, I actually think it helps him. I really do. I think that the size could be a factor here if he goes to that wrestling, but it was that gas tank going to hold up as the thing. So it's a big pass for me. Moving on, we got Jan Blachowicz going against Alex Pereira. Another pass for me at the moment. I don't think I'll be betting this fight. I really don't want to bet this fight at all. I want to stay away from this fight. Like, Blachowicz is a guy I've never been high on. Blachowicz is a guy where there was like a 5-fight stretch of the guy where I was just picking against this guy, and he was going out there and making me look stupid, knocking guys out left and right. At this point, he's 40 years old. Blachowicz has a clear path to victory here. Is he going to use that path to victory or not? That is yet to be seen. A prop that I did have circled for this week was Blachowicz by sub. Was hoping for something much better than what it is. Was thinking it's maybe a hot take, but apparently it's not. We're only getting 5-1. I would need a lot more to even consider that sub prop. So not touching the sub prop for Blachowicz. I mean, I really don't want to. I mean, I could see Pereira, if Blachowicz comes in here with a terrible game plan and strikes with this guy, I mean, he's probably getting knocked out at this point. 40 years old. Yes, Blachowicz is tough as nails. If you get hit by Alex Pereira, you're probably going down. So I'm staying away from this fight. It's a pick 'em each way. If Blachowicz does get the plus money, which I don't think he's going to, I don't think he's going to get the plus money. But if he does get the plus money, I'll be forced to bet it just because you're getting a guy with, 4 times, maybe 5 times the MMA experience, a guy that has just a significant advantage on the mat if he gets it there. And then a guy where he can knock out Pereira as well. Like, Blachowicz has knocked out, many guys in the UFC, and Pereira's coming back, from a brutal knockout loss that just happened 3 months ago. So a lot of reasons to like Blachowicz, but if he comes in here with a stupid game plan, he's probably getting starched. So it's a stay away fight. It's a pass fight. I don't want to bet on this fight. This fight is just, I don't know. This fight's been making me, feel some type of way all week. I mean, this fight has caused me a lot of stress, I guess you could say, all week. And I think at this point it's best for me to just stay away. And but like I said, if Blachowicz does get the plus money, which I don't think it will, I will be forced to pull the trigger there. But hopefully he doesn't get the plus money because I don't want to bet him. But if you give me a plus money Blachowicz, a guy with so many paths here, I'll be forced to. But pass at the moment. Pass at the moment, and probably a pass for the rest of the week here. But we'll see. It's a fight, again, that has caused me a lot of stress and a lack of sleep. Moving on to the main event. Don't forget to comment down your plus money props. Can't wait to see you guys come with. Let's see if we can hit some big ones this week. But we have Dustin Poirier going against Justin Gaethje here. So I have my first max bet of the year. And this is a numbers play for me. This is absolutely a numbers play, but my read backs it up, and the style of the fight backs it up. And it's a line that, quite frankly, shocked me a little bit. So I know a lot of people are on the over 2.5 rounds in this fight, which I personally think it goes over 2.5, but just barely. So I don't typically bet overs, and I would not bet an over in this fight. But I would just caution anybody of really betting that over. Like I said, I think it hits, but is it going to be worth it? In their last 10 scheduled 5-round fights, 8 of them have finished under 2.5 rounds. That's 80%. So if you're laying, chalk on that over, how much of an edge are you really getting? On top of that, it's going to be the biggest sweat in your life. You might, lose some hair. You might have a couple heart attacks along the way. So I would not really bet an over in this fight. But this is what sticks out to me. These guys have 18 combined 5-round fights. 18 combined 5-round fights. That's a huge sample size. We don't typically see sample sizes that big. 16 of those 18 fights have finished inside the distance. Once again, 16 of 18. That is 89%. 89% of these guys' 5-round fights. Justin Gaethje, 8 out of 8 have finished. And then Dustin Poirier, 8 out of 10, 80% have finished. I was expecting to see a fight doesn't go to decision line anywhere from minus 350 to minus 400, because we are in elevation. We saw how the first fight, when that finished, these guys' 5-round fights, they typically do finish. Justin Gaethje's never been 5, and then on top of that, just the way this fight's going to play out, they're going to stand and go to war from the jump. There is not going to be a feeling out process in this fight. When has there ever been a feeling out process in a Dustin Poirier or Justin Gaethje fight? I guess a little bit in the Fiziev fight, I guess, but every other fight other than that, there's no filling out process, and I'd be quite surprised if there was a filling out process in a BMF title fight, to be honest. So I think these guys are going to go after it at the jump. I expect to finish 3rd, 4th, or 5th round, personally. But what I am on, my first max bet of the year, is the fight doesn't go the distance. Like I said, it's a numbers play. I think this line should be much wider. I was able to get it at minus 205. I put 5 units on it. It's moved a little bit. It's now, I would play it all the way up to minus 250, and I think it's minus 250 or better on every single book out there. So I am putting the money down on it. I think violence is a great look. If this fight goes the distance, expect 30 knockdowns, a couple eye pokes, a couple, they're going to be limping out of the cage. They might need stretchers to get out of the cage if this fight goes the full 25. So give me the 5-unit max bet on the fight. Doesn't go the distance. I think the under 4.5 is solid. Under 3.5 is solid. I don't hate the under 2.5 even, but I would like to get that extra round with the under 3.5 if anything. So lots of action on this card. Lots of late round sprinkles. Lots of bets. Like I said, I'm attacking these guys who I think are going to be compromised with the cardio in elevation. And if I'm right about this elevation affecting some of these terrible cardio guys, it's going to be a very good night. If it turns out it doesn't change anything, maybe a lot of these fights do end up going the distance, then it won't be as great of a night. But hopefully we're able to hit some of these big props, hitting even a couple of these. Like, I'm going to get a lot wrong because I'm taking a lot of big sprinkles. If I had a couple, it could be a very big night. So best of luck, everybody, for UFC 291. Phenomenal card. Could be potential card of the year. I know 290 was awesome. This one could give it a run for its money. Don't forget to comment down your plus money props. Please put the odds as well. Looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Tons of content on there that you do not see on YouTube as well. Early bets, the stats you see here, articles, full card art, just a ton of stuff on there. Be sure to check that out. I do appreciate that quite a bit. And other than that, best of luck for UFC 291. We'll talk to you soon and see you later.